Welcome, everyone, to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story you've probably heard a million times, right? It's been endlessly analyzed by historians, splashed across the silver screen. Yeah, we're talking about the RMS Titanic. But today, we're going to strip away all those Hollywood myths and look straight at the very bones of this event. We're going to walk through the journey, the incredibly stark reality of the tragedy, and exactly why its legacy has lasted this long. We'll see how this one single maritime disaster basically became a global cultural touchstone. It's a real roller coaster of a narrative, full of intense human ambition, super strict social structures, and ultimately the completely humbling power of nature.
Let's actually jump right in by starting, well, not at the beginning, but at the very end. Picture this, a ship that everyone swore was unsinkable is literally plunging into the freezing, pitch-dark waters of the Atlantic Ocean. And amidst all that utter chaos, the absolute panic, the freezing cold, there is beautiful music playing. No way, right? But it's true. This haunting contrast, this desperate fight for survival happening while the ship's band calmly plays their instruments on a tilting deck is one of the most powerful details recorded by the survivors. It really hits the nail on the head, capturing the sheer disbelief of that night. It's this wild sensory detail that completely anchors how surreal and terrifying the whole thing actually was.
Section 1. Departing from Southampton. The Journey to America.
So this journey was an absolutely massive undertaking, highly publicized right from the get-go. It kicked off in Southampton, England, with just a staggering amount of fanfare, a truly grand departure. From there, the ship pushed out into the vast open expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. This crossing was supposed to be the ultimate showcase of speed and unparalleled luxury, and the final destination? America. But this wasn't just a physical trip across the pond. For so many people on board, it literally represented a bridge to an entirely new life, a whole new world of opportunity and promise.
Now, at the helm of this incredibly ambitious crossing was a guy named Captain Smith. And what makes his story just so poignant is that navigating the Titanic, that was supposed to be the crowning achievement of his entire career. It was meant to be his big, glorious final voyage right before he kicked back into a well-deserved retirement. The company basically handed their grandest vessel to their most senior, respected captain, which honestly makes the immense optimism at the start and the ultimate fate of the ship and Captain Smith himself just all the more heartbreaking.
All right, moving into Section 2, a ship divided. Let's talk about those strict social structures.
3. The passengers on the Titanic were rigidly separated into exactly 3 distinct classes. And this wasn't just, a matter of paying different ticket prices. It was a literal physical manifestation of the era's social hierarchy, built right into the actual architecture and layout of the ship, where you could walk, what you could eat, and tragically, your proximity to the lifeboats. All of that was entirely dictated by which of these 3 classes you happen to fall into. Just look at the extreme ends of the spectrum here. On one side, you've got first class. We're talking wealthy elites, lords, prominent figures just soaking up unparalleled luxury. Grand dining rooms, the whole shebang. Then, on the completely opposite end, you've got your third-class passengers. These were everyday, normal people. Many were poor immigrants basically pooling every last penny of their life savings just for a shot at a new beginning in America. And sure, their conditions were actually considered pretty decent for third class back then, but they were super basic and totally cut off from the absolute opulence going on just a few decks above them. It's absolutely crucial to remember how these rigid, fully accepted social divides completely defined the daily reality of everyone on board.
Which brings us to Section 3, Tragedy in the Atlantic. Disaster strikes.
And then, in the month of April, the unthinkable happened. Disaster struck. This absolute marvel of engineering was fatally compromised, leading to the ultimate sinking of the ship. In a flash, passengers and crew were suddenly plunged into the freezing, pitch-dark waters of the Atlantic. And among the immense loss of life was the tragic final fate of Captain Smith. His intended final voyage ended with him doing what captains do, going down with his ship. When you really stop and think about it, the sheer scale of that sudden pivot, from ultimate luxury and absolute safety to pure, unadulterated terror, is just staggering to wrap your head around.
To put this environment into perspective, the Atlantic Ocean in April is incredibly unforgiving, freezing, pitch dark. It was right here that the Titanic ultimately sank, claiming thousands of lives. But it was also right here, suspended just above those icy depths, that those incredibly brave musicians played their final notes. I mean, they provided this fleeting moment of beauty and comfort right in the face of absolute despair. It's really that raw, deeply human response to an insurmountable disaster that makes these historical accounts so moving to us today.
That leads us to our final part, Section 4, A Lasting Legacy. How it became a cultural phenomenon.
So how did the legacy of the Titanic evolve so rapidly? Well, it started as a very real, very tangible maritime tragedy in the Atlantic where actual people lost their lives. But almost instantly, the shock of this supposedly unsinkable ship going down sparked immediate global fame and this intense, enduring public interest. The idea spread like wildfire. People literally couldn't look away from the survivor interviews and all the tragic details. Fast forward to today, and that memory is actively kept alive through cinematic portrayals and massive blockbuster movies. Those films have basically cemented the ship's story into our collective modern memory. They ensure that generation after generation keeps learning about the tragedy, the harsh social divides, and the incredible heroism of that night.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this one question to chew on. Why does the story of the Titanic still capture our imagination over a century later? I mean, is it the sheer scale of the engineering hubris? Or maybe the stark reality of those social divisions that quite literally determined who survived and who didn't? Or is it those incredible, deeply human stories of courage, like the musicians playing their hearts out to the very end? The Titanic really isn't just a story about a sinking ship. It's like a giant mirror reflecting human ambition, our societal structures, and that fundamental primal drive for survival. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.